Hello, my darlings, and welcome back to This is Mariya. Today we're talking about birthday numbers in numerology. Birthday, the day of your birth, means a lot actually. And today we're going to dissect the first 7 numbers. So if you were born on the 1st through the 7th of any particular month, this video is for you. Before we dive in, a couple of housekeeping items. My book, The Rose Codes, the Book of Initiations, is out and available on Audible and Kindle. This is a book about divine femininity. This is a book about integrating your feminine energies, anchoring them. It is a book about healing, deep healing of your sacral center, your heart, your third eye. It's a book about being connected to the Divine Mother and the divinity within and without. So if that resonates with you, do come check it out. And I also invite you to join my healing circles, which are workshops and events, virtual events that I'm doing. It's about one a month that I'm working on. And usually they're prompted by either activating something or healing something within the collective. My up and coming ones are going to be a one on activating your etheric wings, so your energy body, activating the full potential of your energy body. And the second one is going to be about healing the throat chakra, the throat center, speaking and living your truth. If you're interested in checking out the workshops, they are available on my website, thisismariya.com, under live events. All right, my darlings, super exciting topic. Now, your birthday number is one of the core numbers in numerology. So it is considered one of the more important numbers to look at your numerological chart. Now, is it going to tell us your whole life story? No, it won't. Is it going to be the end all be all? It won't. It is just one facet of who you are. It is one of the numbers that make up your, call it destiny, your purpose, your North Star. It is not the only number. It is perhaps not even the most important number, but it is important enough to consider as you are trying to understand the tapestry of your being, trying to understand what are the blessings that you have come here from your higher self. What is the intended path? And I really love doing these kind of almost like collective readings. I've done a few of these, just dissecting, your life path numbers. I've done for every life path number, I've done collective readings on people's eye colors and hair colors. And this one, I guess, is in the same vein, only it's numerology and not specifically phenotype. Okay, let's get going. We'll see what wants to come through, but most likely I'm going to look at the blessings and the curses of, your energy as somebody who was born on a particular day of the month. And we're going to start with number 1. If you are born on the 1st, or somebody listen up. If you were born on the 1st, your core vibration, your core signature is that you're bringing something else new and different into your lineage. You somehow are a pioneering energy for your lineage. So you are going to be perhaps the odd one out, or the black sheep of the family, or you may be the one that just wants more, has higher aspirations than your ancestors, or wants to transcend a particular ancestral pattern really, really badly. So you're going to have that innovative spirit. And also ones usually have a lot of physical energy. Because if you think about it, it takes a lot of energy to go against the grain. And ones always go against the grain of their lineage. And because of that, when you're going against the grain, you need so much more power. You need so much more momentum to be able to keep going. And that's why ones usually bring a lot of really, really good grounded energy. Usually ones have a very well-developed first chakra, root center, where they have safety and security and they feel like they are willing and able to make the choices for themselves based on their own inner compass, and they're not necessarily taken aback by, call it the collective, whether that is the immediate collective of their family or the broader collective of the human family. Now, in certain rare instances, of course, the one is going to be the broader scale revolutionary, somebody who brings something for humanity. It could be anchoring a particular energy for humanity, anchoring a particular pattern or template for humanity. So there are a lot of ones that are maybe a little bit revolutionary, that don't necessarily want to subscribe to societal templates, that want to do it their way. For ones, it's really, really important to listen to the inner calling that of their soul, if that makes sense, right? So their call is going to come from within. It's not going to come from without. And it's really, really important for them to listen in and tune in into what they want, because it's almost like what is required of the one is a leap of faith, because they are being asked to go into the unknown, to pursue the unknown, to do something else and different compared to what everybody else is doing, or everybody else in their lineage is doing. So they have to have a heart of a true believer to be able to walk that walk, talk the talk, and end up victorious. So for ones, it's really, really important to go within and understand what it is that they want. What are their set of values? Ones may be challenged by having a very opinionated parent. That is a very, very common thing with ones. And that parent is there as a teacher early on for the one. So the one can understand that no, the parent doesn't have all the answers. No, the parent doesn't have better answers. In fact, you as a one would always have a better answer for you, right? And it's that learning curve that you need to go through by having a parent that's very opinionated or very pushy, or always has kind of like the answer for everything and always wants to steer you in a certain direction. For the one to understand that, in fact, their opinion is the most important opinion to them. And by the way, when the one makes decisions coming from that inner calling and based on their inner gut feeling, intuition, call it whatever you want, nudge, they are always happier. They are always more fulfilled, they're more aligned compared to anybody else they listen to. Even if, whoever they listen to is the biggest authority in their eyes, right? The one is called to make their own choices. The challenge of the one is not to lose energy along the way, because again, they need all this momentum to go against the grain and to actually do the revolutionary things that they're here to do. But they also have a tendency to be very active, to want to do a lot of things, and to they can also have a little bit of a fiery personality where they're losing energy just based on their temper and based on their emotions, either temper or emotions, right? Like they may just get emotional or emotionally charged, go from 0 to 100 very, very quickly. And because of that, they may lose momentum and may lose energy. And then when the time comes for, call it the quantum leap, they don't have the energy, right? So like that is something for the ones to be very, very mindful of, to always be mindful of your energy. Give yourself enough time to replenish. Ones are not always supposed to be go, go, go. Despite the fact that I said that they have more energy than the others, it is not the energy that is always giving. It is the energy that is meant to collect itself, then jump, kind of like a wild cat. So you bring that, wildness of a cat type of energy. Another thing for the ones to be mindful of is that they can be a little bit harsh in relationships or a little bit inconsiderate. Not necessarily selfish or narcissistic to like a large degree, but they just like, it's almost like sometimes they forget to consider others, or sometimes they forget that their actions, words, or the lack of thereof have an impact on others, right? It's kind of like almost like they live in the bubble of their own special world, and it's hard for them to factor in another. And so relationships may be challenging for the one. Raising kids may be challenging for the one. Having a family, like getting along with their significant other, or like maintaining relationships may be a challenge for the one. So that is definitely a challenge. And the other thing is the one that does not pursue their calling is a little bit of a sad sight, because they really lose that spark. And they just don't see the point anymore. The problem is the one that has lost their spark also lost a lot of its energy, most likely. And so it's very hard for them to get back to that original track, to understand what went wrong and how to reconnect with the original plan. And so here, what I would recommend is connecting to the North Star, like actual North Star. I have a North Star meditation on our sacred universe. If you're the one, that is for you. And then connecting to the higher self so you can get realigned back to your path and get the answers that you need around what it is that you truly want, what it is that you truly came here to do. And for the one, it is really important. It is important for pretty much everybody, but for the one, it's critical to understand what their purpose is. Why did they show up here? Like it grounds them. And it gives them conviction that they're not just running around. That there's like the method behind the madness, right? They need that assurance. Okay, that is the 1. 2, if you were born on the 2nd of any month, what does this tell me about you? What kind of energy did you bring? 2s are in a perpetual balancing act. They tend to be considerate. They tend to be really outward in terms of their consideration. What I mean by that is they consider themselves and their wants and needs, but they also consider the broader community. They consider others. And so sometimes 2s may have a challenge around committing to something or doing a specific action because it is hard for them to see the longer term impact of that action. So because they're considering, they're a little bit like the scales, the set of scales, where they're trying to weigh their every move, and it's really, really hard. It's hard for them to see 10 steps ahead. 2s usually, if we look at their purpose and what is their reason for being? They usually came to harmonize either one relationship or multiple relationships. So it's a very harmonious energy that has to do a lot with relationships. Very often they are given a challenging relationship in their lifetime. Either it is a parent, it could be a challenging significant other, or it could be a child. If it is a single being, that is usually the extent of options. Or they may be called to be a harmonious force for a broader group, whatever that is, at work, a particular community in their village, I don't know, in their neighborhood, what have you. They may be called to be that peacemaker, a peacekeeper, or like a diplomat, if that makes sense, right? That almost like is here to find a consensus and lead everybody back into oneness. There is that energy for 2s that is very kind of like, let's bring the harmony back. 2s, like I said, their challenge is undecisive. It's really hard for them to get going. It's very hard for them to also even find out what would make them happy. So because they're kind of like a little bit cautious, they're not risk takers. They don't love trying a bunch of new things and like failing 999 times before succeeding the thousandth time. So they're a little bit more cautious. They're a little bit on the conservative side. They fall back on traditions. They have strong values. Family is very often a big value. Family is very often something they spend a lot of time nurturing. So it's and they're very homey, if that makes sense. Their house, their home is very important to them. They're the ones that usually remember everybody's birthdays and, special occasions and things like that. And they're super mindful about like not offending and hurting people's feelings. The problem with 2s is they often put themselves at the end of the list. So for them, really important opportunity for improvement is self-love. Right? So they tend to be very giving, don't like taking. They don't always accept help. So that could be a challenge for a 2, being able to accept help. They are vulnerable, but they don't like showing that vulnerability as well. And sometimes they try to conceal their true feelings and true emotions. Despite being that harmonious force, it's almost like they're going to harmonize everything, but they're going to put their own feelings on the back burner. And they don't, with 2s, if you offended them, you're very likely never to find out because they're really patient. And like I said, they are afraid or they're worried that by showing somebody they hurt their feelings, they would offend the other person. So they are also conflict avoidant because of that, right? They don't love conflict. And it's almost like conflict makes them uncomfortable. And that is also why they are such a good peacekeeper, is because anytime they get into a large group of people, or small, it doesn't really matter, any group of people, and they sense that inharmonious streak of like a fight is brewing, they have this natural inclination to want to diffuse it. And they do that for their own sanity, because a lot of twos are also empaths. A lot of twos have very open hearts, and they're like receptacles. They're almost like the sponges that absorb so much from the surrounding areas that they feel like, okay, if I'm smack in the middle of this big fight, I just can't handle it. And so they start like softly diffusing it in whichever way, even energetically, even subconsciously sometimes, but very often with language and with the suggestions that they make. So they're that, steady peacekeeper kind of, energy. They are very dependable. They usually keep their promises. They're usually like the good person. And they have a little bit of an attachment to being the good guy or the good girl. And because of that, with the twos, one thing you have to be very mindful of is this people-pleasing tendency that very often comes from pleasing one of the parents, right? Pleasing one of the parents because they didn't feel that they were likable or lovable enough if they didn't please somebody, right? So that is this a form of insecure attachment to one of the parental figures. So some healing of the mother or father wounding is probably recommended for twos. All right, moving on. If you are a 3, if you were born on the 3rd of the month, what does it tell me about you? 3s are bubbly, usually. 3s are very fast. They like moving fast. They are a little bit ADHD. Just by definition, like by the virtue of their energy. They are not here to be contained. A lot of them have come with this air kind of vibration, like the vibration of air is very predominant. And it's almost like a little bit like if 3 was a zodiac sign, it would kind of be a Gemini. They're hard to pin down. They're just very bubbly and very airy and non-committal. It's hard for a 3 to commit. They like really need to be sure that that they really want something for them to commit. Otherwise, they're going to be like, "Can I tell you tomorrow?" Maybe. So they're like a little bit of like go with the flow. It's very important for them to make sure that there is flexibility in their schedule. They are not the one, they'll follow a schedule because they have to, but that's not their preferred way. And they're the ones that, would want to be late probably just to keep their sanity, or sometimes they forget to keep track of time. So they're late just because they forgot. They're also the ones that, ironically, in their mind, like play is really important. That inner child is very important to them. Adventure is very important. They don't like serious things. They don't like grown up stuff. They usually don't enjoy having a job, especially if it's not like a freelance type of job where they're the business owner type of situation, or they can control their destiny. 3s, they're not very disciplined as a general rule. They don't love discipline. They would, rather just make up the rules as they go. But the beauty of a 3 is they're super creative, and they are an artist at heart, and they are very like unstoppable in the sense that their imagination runs rampant, and they can be incredible innovators. But the 3s really, they need to be excited. Like they cannot fake it. They are, and from that perspective, they're very honest, because you with them, what you see is what you get, because they cannot fake interest. They gonna have to really feel it. And so when they pick a career, it's usually something that they truly love, because they can imagine doing anything else, right? But if they haven't found yet what they love, they can be perpetual wanderers. Like, I don't like this and I don't like that, and that does not excite me and this doesn't excite me. So what would I do? Boo-hoo. So there's a little bit of that potential with the 3 when they're really picky. And 3s are quite picky. But at the same time, they're really good at like relationships from the perspective of it's easy for them to get along with people. They're usually good communicators because, again, they're representing that air sign or like the air frequency. And so it's easy for them to, they're not all extroverts. There's enough introverted people actually in the threes. However, it's easy for them to, because they're quite in tune, and it's easy for them to maintain the conversation or find something to say. So they're not, from that perspective, they're not challenged by communication. Threes need to always be inspired by having some newness in their life. So they're the ones that get bogged down by routine like pretty much no other. So they need that freshness. They need that, something else new and different all the time for them to feel even remotely okay with their lives. So very often, if they are not able to get that through their career, they would either jump from one relationship to another to create some form of newness, or they would travel, or they would, move all the time. But there's going to be some part of their aspect of their life where it's complete mayhem, and it's very much by design, and they want it that way. Like, they also have a little bit of this messy artist archetype where they're like, a part of their even physical world is going to be a mess. Like, either it's a closet, or it's their working desk, or it's their garage, but they're like, it's my creative abandon. It's like a place where nothing needs to be organized, because there's that streak of them that is like pure chaos in the best way possible. Like, so much can come out of chaos. Like, the entire universe was born out of chaos, right? Chaos was the original energy. And they have that, that thing that is uncontrollable. Like, they're completely uncontrollable, completely free-spirited. And they kind of like dance to the beat of their own drum. It is, and sometimes they're perceived as a little bit like weirdos. They're perceived as a little bit of like, okay, the odd ones out, because they like truly have no desire to fit in, and truly have no desire to live into a template. And sometimes they'll just break rules just because it's fun, and break rules just for the sake of breaking rules. Not because they're rebellious, but just because they're adventurous and curious and kind of like youthful, and they just, they could care less. The challenge with threes is, they get bored really, really easily. It's hard for them to sit still. And a lot in our lifetimes, in our lives, is trying to sit still and pay taxes. And, they like all this boring adult stuff. They hate it. They dislike all of the boring adult stuff. But they could make very good parents because they never fully grow up. And because of that, they can really, when they play with their children, it's like they're in it. Like, their entire heart is in it because they're kind of kids themselves still. And they can be very innovative, like I said. They can really push the envelope because that is their true nature. They almost don't know how not to. And so things that are taboo for others, or no, don't go there. These people, they're like, ooh, well, let me consider that. That sounds fun. What if we put, 1 + 2 + 3 + 5 and add some purple, and all of a sudden it's an explosion of awesomeness. And that's how they come up with they fuse seemingly unfusable, incompatible things together to get something really, really beautiful. So they're really great at synthesis. All right. 4. If your birthday is a 4, if you have been born on the 4th of any month, what does it tell me about your energy? 4 is serious. 4 is usually the responsible one in the family. If you're the sibling, if you're the sibling, one of many siblings is a 4, you're probably the more responsible one. You're the one that does not necessarily prioritize fun or prioritize pleasurable things. You're a little bit, there's a little bit of that Capricorn energy where you're like, okay, I need to have a plan. It needs to be, well thought out. I need to believe it. It needs to make sense logically and otherwise. And, and then we can execute, right? So they're definitely they're like the executive. They like a very deliberate approach. They like details. They're really good at details. They're really good at the step-by-step. Very logical usually. They have a strong gut feeling though. And it's almost like they have a vision. Very often 4s are visionaries, but visionaries for how to how to turn 1 into 10 and 10 into 100, if that makes sense, right? So like they're like growers. They have a lot of growth potential, and they like things that have scale, right? They like things that are a little bit bigger, things that are a little bit more spacious, things that are a little bit more ambitious. So they like scale. They're not going to be, comfortable with just like playing a small role somewhere. They like being significant. They like spreading their wings. They are good managers. They like delegating to other people. They usually like running teams, and they're good at that. They're good businessmen, businesswomen, business people. They're usually very, they would make good engineers. Anywhere where logic is required, their logic is stellar, like really very logical people. Where the 4 is challenged with is emotions, specifically understanding emotions in others and processing their own emotions, especially negative, right? So the negative emotions of the 4 can really, really get stuck in their auric field and not know where to move. They also have a little bit of a hard time with expressing their feelings. And because of that, they may be challenged with relationships because like they just don't talk, or they would prefer to, not talk feelings. They can talk about anything else, but just like, let's not just talk about feelings. They may have a harder time saying words like, I love you, to their loved one or their partner. They're also they're a little bit of a perfectionist parent. It's almost like they like creating like a whole plan, like, and thinking of their child as their project. And they're the ones that are going to sign their kid on to every single extracurricular activity that they could possibly think of. And sometimes that's smothering. Like sometimes that's really hard on the kid, right? Because when you're a project, it's like almost like you have to meet this ideal that is really, really hard. Now, 4s sometimes are hard on themselves too, right? So there is that perfectionist, like everything needs to be perfect and the angles need to be 90 degrees and blah, blah, blah. That's like a traditional 4. And they don't like creative chaos. Chaotic things scare them. Chaotic people scare them. So a 3 would really scare a 4, if that makes sense. But at the same time, 4s can be very impactful leaders, like sturdy, stable, dependable, trustworthy, honest. It's usually somebody who does what they said they were going to do, follows through, follows up. You can count on them. So they have a lot of fantastic characteristics. They can be a little bit on the dull side. They're not necessarily all that progressive. Like progressive thinking, trying something new just for the sake of trying something new, innovation. They're like, don't fix it if it ain't broken, right? But at the same time, they love building to scale. They love things that they could grow, right? And they actively seek out things that they could grow. Companies that they could grow, ideas that they could grow. And they're really good at, like I said, they're good managers, but they're also really good at leading teams and like building systems and building structures, building process. So that's what 4s are really, really good for. 4s very often are career oriented. So that is something about the 4s that tends to be true. Less so family. It doesn't mean that family is not a big value for them, but if they're just in the family, they tend to not be fulfilled. Like they need something bigger than that, bigger or just different. So, and usually they're actually really good at compartmentalizing and combining. Like 4s can have a very lucrative career and have a really, really good family life. It's almost like they can check all the boxes. They have that kind of energy. So they're a little bit of the powerhouse. Okay, we're gonna do 5, and that'll be the last one for this episode. 5s are here to explore their femininity, and they're here to either move through the challenges of their femininity or kind of allow themselves to be less serious, allow themselves to play a little bit more, allow themselves to become innovative. So 5 is the energy of water, actually. And 5 is also very much a Venusian number. 5, though, may be challenged with becoming water. So 5s may come into a rigid structure of some sort or a very strict parent of some sort. And that may kind of like a little bit deflate them from the early childhood. So they may not always be set up for success. However, there is always something special about how the energy of water moves in the body of a 5 that is their secret talent. So 5 always has a secret talent. What does water stand for? Many things, actually. Water can be relationships. So these people can be really good at relationships, really good at things like sales, for instance. Water can be very emotional, right? So these people can be really good therapists, really good coaches, really good healers. Water is really good at healing, right? Which is where we get with the healers, but it's also really good doctors, really good nurses. All of that is also water. Water can be the arts, so they can be really, really amazing artists. So the challenge of the 5 is to come out of this, the rigidity that they may be against. It could be a strict parent, could be a strict teacher, could be a strict inner critic, whatever that is, and reemerge on the other side as water. Not allow yourself to harden or somebody else to harden you, and tap into the talent. 5s should always look for their talent. 5s always have a special talent. So if you're a 5, you were born on the 5th of the month, and you don't know what your special talent is, search deeper, because your special talent, whether that is a special ability, an energy that you bring, that is going to be your path of fulfillment, right? And when a 5 has found their talent, when they have a full awareness of that talent, it is actually very detrimental for them to not act upon it, right? So 5s are always called to pursue that talent as soon as they find out. And by the way, they may find out really late in life. And it may seem to them, may feel like, oh my God, well, there's just no way, there's no time for me to pursue that talent. But the truth is, there is still time. In fact, that could be why you came. That could be why you came. The challenge of the 5 is actually a rigid heart or a broken heart. So very often 5s are going to be challenged by a broken heart. And it doesn't mean like in a romantic sense only. Anybody and anything can break your heart. A best friend can break your heart. A lover, a child, a parent, a lot of things can break your heart. The state of the world can break your heart. And it's almost like there is a temptation for the 5 to distance themselves from the world and be like, not ready to deal with this, not ready to deal with this. But the challenge of the 5 and an invitation is for them to soften their hearts, to crack their hearts open and take the world in, because that tends to jumpstart their own magic. That tends to jumpstart their own resource. 5s are meant to be abundant. 5 is the energy of abundance. And if you as a 5 are not abundant, then that means that you haven't worked through a particular trauma that you're meant to work through, right? So as a 5, if you find yourself not being able to afford certain things or feeling like your level of living, like in terms of material, is somehow below your standards or is not, according to your wildest dreams, that means that there is something for you to be worked through karmically that is pulling you down and holding you down, because the energy of the 5 of water is the energy of money and abundance. And so unless your energy is distorted, you're going to keep bubbling up to the surface, and it's almost like the universe is gonna give you all of the riches and all of the abundance, right? Whatever that means to you. And if the universe hasn't done so, it's because you are actively repelling abundance, right? So for you, understanding your relationship with money, understanding your relationship with abundance, and if it is broken, how it is broken, could be a very, very pivotal aha moment that could really change the trajectory of your life. 5s may also be called to create something. It could be a book, could be a baby, could be something, but like they are the creative archetype, and they are, literally meant to birth something. The big question for them is, what am I here to birth? Is it an energy? Is it a being? Like, what is it? And until they birth that thing, they don't feel complete. and they don't feel fully accomplished. But once that happens, it's like, okay, there's like a big checkbox, like been there, done that, yay. Fives could be daydreamers. They could also, but there could be the daydreamer that has a hard time connecting dreams versus reality. So they're not the practical four. Where four is like they have an idea, they know how to implement it. Fives may find themselves just wanting a lot of things in theory and like daydreaming, but not knowing how to, like, what steps to take to materialize things. So fives could have an issue around materialization and manifestation. So that could be a challenge for them. To overcome or not to overcome, that depends on the five. Some of them really care about becoming manifestors. Others could care less. Fives are romantics. Despite the fact that their hearts are a little bit hardened by trauma, they really love romance, and they kind of want to be romanced a little bit. So it's very important for them to, like, if it's a female, to get flowers and things like that from their partner. If it's a male, it's important for them that their partner is also romantic or appreciates romantic gestures. It's very important for them to maintain a really, really good, close relationship with their partner, even if the kids are in the picture. So the fives are meant to, like, reserve time for them to be alone with their spouse or their significant other, even if the kids are in the picture. It's like, have somebody watch the kids. Like, you're supposed to have one-on-one time with your significant other, because that is how your soul grows and how your heart is going to be even more able to come out of its shell. The challenges, there are many challenges for the five, but I would say probably the bigger one is the heart healing. Because once the heart is healed, it's like the little sun is lit up in their chest, and that talent is going to be amplified, and they can become seen, and they can become fully actualized. But a lot of it, a lot of the fives that are unhappy in their lives, or that feel unfulfilled, or just, get sick, it's because they haven't addressed the wounding in their heart and that rigidity in their heart. All right, my darlings, I hope this was helpful. I hope this was fun. We're going to pick up with the number 6 with birthday 6 next time. Sending you a big virtual hug. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, loves.